Welcome back to Views with Hughes, Culture and News. This is Jerome Hughes. Now, let's go ahead and get right into it. So, I hate to talk about this, but as you all know, the acolyte, Disney's failed attempt at keeping Star Wars alive, all under the disastrous leadership of Kathleen Kennedy. Well, it's now that as you all know, sitting at the top of the garbage heap over on Disney Plus, a direct result of Kathleen Kennedy's poor creative decisions. And honestly, that's not saying much, is it? And there's still people out there who's trying to defend the show made by Kathleen Kennedy as being, the best performing show on streaming service. But at the same time, it's bleeding subscribers and drowning in bad content. And that's not exactly a win. You see, Kathleen Kennedy's track record speaks for itself, failure after failure, and yet Disney keeps her at the helm. I don't know why. Maybe she does know where the bodies are, but the new data rolled in, and it's exactly what you'd expect under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership. You see, the Star Wars franchise on Disney Plus didn't do well last year, and neither did Marvel. But, we already knew that. That's no surprise right there. But we've been talking about it for years, and Kathleen Kennedy has been running the Disney Star Wars into the ground, and every time they put out some new woke-fueled mess, it flops, and they're at surprise. But here's the thing. Disney Plus has those Nielsen ratings turned on in your account by default. That means that they know exactly how bad these shows are doing, okay? And they're still putting out more of the same garbage, all thanks to Kathleen Kennedy, okay? Now, we've also got even more, confirmation, this time from Luminate over the ratings of the Acolyte. If you're not familiar, Luminate is owned by Eldridge Industries, and Penske Media Corp. Now, what's important to know is that, Penske Media owns all the big shill outlets, Deadline, The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, you name it. All the shills they control. These are the same places that bend the need over backward to prop up garbage Disney content. But even they can't cover up the damage that Kathleen Kennedy has done to the Star Wars brand. So when even they have to admit Star Wars and Marvel are in the dumps, it's bad. Now, let's be real here. Kathleen Kennedy is the common denominator in all of these abysmal Disney Star Wars failures, okay? So, going to go ahead and break this down. Be sure to smash the like button, video, share the video far wide across social media, subscribe to the channel, click bell notifications, so that way you'll be notified of future uploads and updates. So, let's get right into it. So, apparently, Deadline's reporting that according to Luminate's viewership system, both Star Wars and Marvel shows underperformed last year, okay? That's not exactly shocking news at all, but what is shocking is that they're actually admitting it. And it's not just Disney's franchises that are cratering. Amazon's Rings of Power, as you all know, lost a massive amount of viewers throughout the first season. Now, remember when Amazon was bragging about spending like over $1 billion on this thing? Yeah, well, turns out it didn't even matter because the second season of Rings of Power lost 60% of its total minutes watched. And that's no surprise there compared to the first season. And who's been taking notes from Amazon's failures? It seems to me it's been Kathleen Kennedy at the helm of Star Wars and stuff, and continuing to steer Star Wars into the same downward trajectory. But we're going to go ahead and get back to Star Wars and Disney Plus, and Marvel's not even doing much better. You see, the Nielsen ratings already show that Echo and Agatha were the two least watched and lowest rated Marvel shows on the platform itself. And now, Luminate confirms that Marvel's streaming franchises were a total bust, okay? But we're also talking about two major franchises, Star Wars and Marvel, completely failing to hold an audience. And that's with all the money and the marketing power of Disney behind them. Yet Kathleen Kennedy, on the other hand, remains at her job pushing her divisive woke agenda while fans continue to walk away. Now, that's sad and unfortunate, okay? But with the whole thing about the acolyte, this is where it gets funny, and people are still defending it. I had a comment before on the last video about this, but I've even seen people online, mostly on Reddit, trying their hardest to go ahead and spin this into a win. According to Deadline, the acolyte was actually the second most watched show on Disney Plus last year with 2.7 billion minutes viewed, and number one was Percy Jackson and the Olympians at 3 billion minutes. But let's not forget about the acolyte, which is Kathleen Kennedy's pet project, okay? Another failed forced attempt to push her vision of Star Wars while ignoring what the fans actually want. People are actually celebrating second place and stuff, but then again, this is the same kind of crowd that welcomes in the whole participation trophies and stuff in different competitions, okay? But let's put this in perspective. If I'm running a race against a bunch of people who have broken legs and I win, does that make me fast? Absolutely not. It means I was the best of the bad bunch, okay? That's exactly what's happening here. The acolyte is at the top of the garbage pile, okay? But it's still garbage, and it's all Kathleen Kennedy's doing, okay? So yeah, it's yet again, her obsession with deconstructing the Star Wars legacy has resulted in another underwhelming product that nobody asked for, all thanks to Kathleen Kennedy. But here's where things get really interesting. The Shills out there, Shill media out there, want to celebrate the acolyte's so-called success, but I'm gonna tell you what, wake me up when Disney announces a second season, okay? Same thing for Agatha, same thing for She-Hulk, same thing for Ms. Marvel. Where exactly are they? Now, if these shows were really doing well, Disney would be rushing to greenlight more seasons. But instead, radio silence. And who's at the center of all of this uncertainty? You guessed it, Kathleen Kennedy. Now, if the acolyte was a true success, Disney would be parading it around as a massive win. Better merchandising would be done in stores. You wouldn't even have the toys on the shelves, even at places like Walmart. But instead, they're suspiciously quiet. I mean, does that sound familiar to anyone? You see, Disney knows these shows aren't worth continuing, okay? They know the audience isn't there. They know that their so-called massive success is a mirage, if you will, created by the fact that everything else on Disney Plus is performing even worse, and yet they just keep churning out the same kind of content, the woke content from Kathleen Kennedy, expecting different results. And at the root of this, of repeated failure, you guessed it, Kathleen Kennedy. Okay, and that's no surprise there, right there. And this is exactly what happens when you prioritize woke politics over good storytelling. This is what happens when you also go ahead and alienate your core audience in favor of chasing Twitter clout or any other clout. People are done. Fans who used to love these franchises have walked away because they're tired of being insulted, lectured to, and fed subpar content of wokeism that doesn't even respect the legacy of what came before. Now, Kathleen Kennedy doesn't care about, what made Star Wars great in the first place. And she was there from the beginning too, but she only cares about pushing her personal agenda at the cost of the franchise's integrity. Okay, and that's really unfortunate right there. Y'all remember when Star Wars was the must-watch entertainment? Now, when people actually got excited about the new movies and shows, and now the only thing that Star Wars fans got excited about was watching old clips of the original trilogy on YouTube. Now, the same thing goes for Marvel. Endgame felt like, a true finale because, let's be honest, it was. Everything after that went downhill except for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, as long as Kathleen Kennedy is still, and also Spider-Man Far From No Way Home. Now, as long as Kathleen Kennedy is still running Lucasfilm, it's only going to get worse. So, yeah, doubt that it will be any better. So, basically, the acolyte is just number 2 on Disney Plus on the garbage pile, but only because everything else is even worse. Now, Marvel and Star Wars are underperforming. Rings of Power is tanking, as you all know, and Disney Plus is still struggling to stay relevant. And looming over it all is Kathleen Kennedy herself, the architect of Disney's Star Wars disaster. Okay, but I mean, let me know when they actually announce a second season for any of these so-called successful shows. But until then, we all know the truth. Disney's Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy and Marvel are running on fumes. And the only people still pretending otherwise are the ones who are too deep in the Shield game to even admit what's really going on. And as long as Kathleen Kennedy is still at the helm and still in charge, that's not going to change at all. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts or details you might have on this particular topic. If you enjoyed what was shared in this video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, click the bell notification so that way you'll be notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.